Alright, so thank you for tuning into Chomping at the Bit. This is episode number 93. I'm Kyle Edwards, of course. And this episode, I want to take a look back at the NBA trade deadline, which was last Thursday. And just kind of give you my reaction to some of the moves that were made. Of course, I'm not going to go through all of them because there were quite a bit of, minor moves here and there that don't necessarily, move the needle in any way for either team. So those we won't talk about. I'm only looking at maybe the major deals, or at least the teams that are kind of in playoff contention who decide to make a move. We'll look at those. I'll give you, like I said, my reaction to them, and we'll kind of just see who had a good deadline day and who didn't. And by not having a good day, that could mean maybe they didn't make a trade, or the trade that they made, I don't really see the point of it. But we'll just take a look at them. There were a few of them. Like I said, the trade deadline was probably a little busier than I thought it was going to be, because I was worried that with the expanded playoffs and everything, that some teams may have been afraid to deal away pieces, and we maybe would have had a bigger buyout market, which I guess the buyout market is kind of a part of the whole trade deadline process, because some players who didn't get dealt were just bought out, because at that point the team just felt the need to just buy them out, get them off the roster, and just move on. So the team that everybody had their eyes on to start the trade deadline was the Orlando Magic, because we know that they've kind of fallen out of contention. After the past couple of years, they've been the 8th seed in the playoffs, so it basically seemed like their core pieces have pretty much plateaued. So everybody was wondering whether or not Orlando was going to deal away Aaron Gordon, Nikola Vucevic, Evan Fournier, even Terrence Ross's name was thrown out there. And they actually did decide to trade Aaron Gordon. Now, for my Celtics fans out there, I know there's a lot of talk about the Celtics and Aaron Gordon. They didn't. And there's stories about that Orlando got with Denver, heard their offer, made that deal before the Celtics could up their deal. But either way, Aaron Gordon goes out to Denver for, Gary Harris, who I feel like after a pretty good rookie year has really fallen off, so there's no big deal for Denver to get rid of him. RJ Hampton is a young guy who hasn't really factored in that much to their success so far this season. So Denver didn't really give up, anything that's really going to hurt them too much. They gave some first round picks, but Denver plans on being a playoff team, and especially like a deep playoff team, so that's bottom of the first round, so they're not really worried about that. And so like I said, they got Aaron Gordon, they got Gary Clark, but Aaron Gordon's the prize piece. Love that move for Denver. It gives them another wing with some size, because Aaron Gordon's like 6'8", 6'9", that area. And in the West, Aaron Gordon's a guy that they'll be able to use, like against the Clippers. You can put Aaron Gordon on Kawhi Leonard or Paul George. The Lakers, he's a body you can throw at LeBron. I guess for even like Phoenix, you could put Aaron Gordon on like a Devin Booker. So I feel like it's a great move for Denver. He also gives them something offensively, as he has improved his three-point shooting over the past few years, as well as he still has athleticism, so he has the ability to take the ball off the wing, get to the hoop. He can still get up there and dunk, all that kind of stuff. So great move for Denver. Love the move. And I guess sticking with Orlando, then traded Evan Fournier to the Celtics. And if you remember when I did my like NBA tier list and all that, I put the Celtics in that tier where they needed to make a move to kind of salvage the season. And like I said, there was some talk about the Celtics trying to get Aaron Gordon and Evan Fournier. They ended up with Fournier, and I like the move for the Celtics. You know, Fournier gives them a proven scorer. Like, I know his first game with the Celtics was really rough. He went 0 for 10, but I'm not going to indict him on that. He's a player who can get you. I mean, he was getting around 20 points in Orlando. I'm not expecting him to do that with the Celtics. With the Celtics, all he has to do is really get like 13 to 15 a game, and he'll be well worth it. You know, Danny Ainge did say that he wasn't the type to trade for a guy in an expiring contract, but there is some talk that Fournier would be interested in re-signing with the Celtics. So if that's true, then, you know, hopefully he can show something in these last, 2 months of the season, and, you know, they will be able to re-sign him. That would be perfect. So, like I said, Fournier, you get a guy who can shoot the three. He's a ball handler on the wing. He's 6'7", so he's got some height to him. I mean, the first game, Jaylen Brown wasn't there. I want to see what a lineup with, like, Kemba. Let's say Kemba, Fournier. Actually, Kemba or Smart at the one with Fournier, Brown, Tatum, and then I guess Robert Williams. See what that lineup kind of looks like, because I think since he's new there, Fournier will probably come off the bench at first, but I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year he's in the starting lineup, or they could just keep him as the sixth man and kind of work him into lineups where maybe he comes in for Brown or Tatum. That way he's out there with Brown or Tatum. And then if like Tatum goes to the bench, whichever one of them's left, and the other one comes back in, then Fournier is with them. Then Fournier, you know, kind of intertwine them, because, you know, with Brown and Tatum's ability to get to the rim, Fournier is that guy that they can kick it out to make a three. He shoots about 39-40%. So like that move for them. And then, let's see, the third guy was Vucevic, who was kind of the, I guess, prize of the trade deadline. He was the biggest name. He was he the only, he might have been like the only all-star that got traded. And they sent him to the Bulls. Trying to see, yeah. He went to the Bulls with Al-Farouq Aminu, and then the Magic got Wendell Carter, Otto Porter, and a couple of first-round picks. We'll have to see if Otto Porter sticks with Orlando. I'm pretty sure Orlando just wants Wendell Carter in the picks because they're just pretty much going young at this point. They are hitting the reset button, which I understand because, like I said, they basically become a 7-8 seed team. So now they're going to try to start it over with a group of, well, they're going to hope that they can, I guess, kind of salvage Wendell Carter, because he was kind of underwhelming with the Bulls. So the Bulls were willing to get rid of him. And, you know, with them also getting, actually, I didn't say what they got from the Celtics or Fournier. Let me back up just a little bit here. They got Jeff Teague and 2 second-round picks, which is another reason why I like to do it for the Celtics. They didn't really give up anything. Teague, Orlando waived Teague right away, and Teague actually signed with the Bucks. So, a side note, I feel like that's a good place for Teague to go. He could be a backup point guard there, give them some veteran leadership. Yeah, so that's fine there. But yeah, so Vucevic, they get Wendell Carter back and first round picks. So for the Bulls, they're getting Vucevic because they really feel like they have an opportunity this year to make the playoffs. Currently, the Bulls are in the 10th spot, so they would be the last team in the play-in tournament. And, I mean, with Vucevic, they're hoping that they can have a good little run here and solidify a spot in the playoffs, because it's been a little bit since the Bulls have been there. And, you know, the Bulls don't want to continue to waste Zach LaVine's time with Chicago, because, you know, it's going to come a point where it's going to be some chatter about, you know, LaVine should probably look to leave Chicago if he wants to get real playoff experience or even win a championship. So hopefully pairing him up with Vucevic gives them a 1-2 punch to go along with they have Lauri Markkanen, which they hope he can continue to, you know, regain the form that he had like first couple of years in the league. They also have, what's that point guard's name? It's like Kobe White. Yeah, Kobe White. The Hutchinson guy. So they have some pieces there. And the Bulls also, well, we'll stick with this deal for now. So yeah, Vucevic gives them a second all-star, a guy who can rebound the ball. He can shoot from the mid-range. He can shoot the three. He's really worked on that past few years. You know, he's a guy who shoots kind of from the straight on three, and also on the breaks. He'll shoot a little bit from there. And like I said, he can post up as well. He has like a complete offensive game. And then defensively, like I said, rebounds the ball. So interesting to see how they play. I know he's played for them. I haven't seen him with the Bulls yet. But I mean, it could be an exciting team for, you know, this year and next. I think Vucevic has 1 year left on his deal, so we'll have to see what happens there. But I like the move for Chicago. I mean, I can't be mad at them for making that move. Let's see. What was another big move here? Okay, so the Heat, they got Oladipo from the Rockets, which, I mean, we've been seeing what's going on in Houston ever since they've, you know, moved on from James Harden. They basically have put up the notice to everybody that they are tearing it down to rebuild. You know, they were having a okay season, and then Christian Wood went down. And basically, once Christian Wood went down, they lost the ability to win. I believe they went winless since he's been out. So, which is kind of one of the crazier stats of the NBA season, but that just shows you how important he is to that team as the building block for them going forward. Now, they did get Oladipo there, but we kind of knew Oladipo wasn't going to stick in Houston, so they were able to flip him. During the trade deadline, they get Avery Bradley and Kelly Olynyk, plus they get to pick swap with the Heat and Rockets do a pick swap in 2022. I guess depending if the Rockets have a lower pick than the Heat, they'll just swap picks with them. Now, for the Rockets, they're not looking to get anything from Olynyk. There's been talk that Olynyk might get bought out. We'll have to see. Bradley's not going to be there long term, so this is mainly just moving Oladipo out to make sure that's like a full rebuild that they're going through. And for Houston, I understand it. I mean, if you're going to go rebuild, you might as well go full blown. So, not mad for them. The Heat, I'm iffy on this one. So, Oladipo is a guy who kind of before he started becoming injured, and a lot of his injuries have been to his legs, and he was a guy who kind of, you know, thrived on his athleticism, ability to get to the rim, finish over guys. I think he's a comfortable mid-range shooter. The 3-ball, he's a little streaky with that. And with that Heat team, I guess I need to see how he, Butler. I guess at times you'll see him, Butler, by Robinson, Adebayo, and Hero or Dragic on the court, and I want to see how that unit works together. Oladipo, if he is right, is a guy that, he can fill it up. I will say that. It's just that I kind of have my reservations about whether or not he can consistently do that night in and night out. And for a Heat team that went to the finals last year, this year has been a big time struggle for them. I know that Butler missed some time and, they dealt with some issues there. So we'll have to see. Oladipo is a piece. Like I said, if he's right, could be what they need to make another run in the playoffs. But ultimately, I don't know if it's really going to affect too much. Because we've seen it so far with the East. Everybody's chasing Brooklyn. And, of course, Brooklyn has some questions themselves because we don't really know how hurt Durant is. And, Kyrie just came back a couple of games ago. But there's always going to be some questions around Kyrie, kind of where his head's at. Harden's been playing well. I'll give him that. I've made it known on here I'm not the biggest Harden fan, but he's kind of played more towards the Oklahoma City Harden, which is the Harden that I said Brooklyn needs, the one who's the playmaker, going after triple doubles on a nightly basis. So, like I said, he's doing his thing. I know there's a lot of talk about whether he's MVP. I can save my thoughts on that for another episode. But, no denying he won't get votes. So, that's all you can ask for. An interesting deal, I will say. Hawks and Clippers basically traded guards. They traded, so Rondo's going to the Clippers. Lou Williams, or as I've called him, Louis Hot Wings, if you don't get the reference real quickly. Last year when they were in the bubble, Lou Williams left the bubble to go to Magic City to get wings apparently, and it was a whole thing. So now that he's playing in Atlanta, hey, he can go whatever he wants now. So, but I think it's a good move because what I've said about this Clippers team with like Pat Beverly, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Nicholas Batum, who I gotta say has definitely outperformed my expectations. I thought with the time that he kind of was sitting there in Charlotte that maybe he had lost something. Well, apparently all he needed to do was get out of Charlotte because he's played well for the Clippers. He's regained the form that I guess led to him getting that big deal with Charlotte. And that's helped the Clippers a lot because it gives Paul George and Kawhi Leonard another guy who can, hit an open three, can drive to the hoop a little bit, can playmaker a little bit. So, will definitely help them out. But as I said also with that tier list, Clippers are a team that's got to prove it when the playoffs happen. So all this stuff in the regular season doesn't matter. They have to, get that taste of last year out of their mouth where they were kind of the prohibitive favorite and they didn't even make the Western Conference Finals. And there's way too much talent on that team to not make it that far. So, like I said, we'll see. But as I said, what I thought was holding the Clippers team back was like a true point guard. And if there's one thing Rondo is, he's a true point guard. He doesn't need to score. He's more than willing to get everybody else on board, get them their points, get them their opportunities, and I think that works perfectly for this Clippers team. I'm pretty sure Rondo isn't going to start. That's just my guess. So, as a guy coming off the bench, he'll probably play decent amount of minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play fourth quarter minutes in pressure situations. So, like the move for them. For the Hawks, I mean, Lou Williams gives them a scorer off the bench. Don't really think that's the Hawks' issue. The Hawks need defense. That's kind of been a problem. But like I said, he's a guy who can get him points off the bench. That's never a bad thing to have. So I think it's a deal that works for both teams, I will say. I mean, the Hawks do get picks out of it, but they're second round picks, so who really cares? Let's see what else we got here. So kind of an under the radar move. The Nuggets got JaVale McGee from Cleveland. Now, we all know JaVale McGee is the guy who Shaq kind of made a household name from, putting him on Shaq and the Fool basically every week. Led to kind of a little feud between the two of them or whatever. But I will say I love that Denver went and got McGee. He's a perfect kind of change of pace to Jokic, or the Joker, which is his nickname. He's a guy who can, spell Jokic some minutes. And then with that team, Denver does like to get up and down the court a lot. And McGee's a guy who can run rim to rim. He can block shots at the rim as well, or affect shots at the rim. He can rebound both defensively and offensively. I think he'll work perfectly there. He's a guy who can, depending on how many minutes they give him, I wouldn't be surprised if he scored around 10 a game. Gave them 6-7 rebounds of, nothing but high energy minutes. Yeah, he'll still do kind of the foolish plays every once in a while, but it's not as prevalent as it was a few years ago. So, like I said, kind of an underrated move from the trade deadline, but one that I love. I love what Denver did for the trade deadline. Getting Aaron Gordon and JaVale McGee. Loved it for them. What's another one? A lot of minor moves. Another team that people were looking at were the Toronto Raptors, where they had Kyle Lowry, who they could have easily have moved. They decided not to. Kind of made me scratch my head because they did move Norman Powell, who went to they went to Portland for Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood. Gary Trent, gotta say I liked him out in Portland. He was a pretty good bench perimeter player. He could get hot some games and drop 20, 25 on you. It always seemed like when Portland needed a big three, especially this year, Trent was a guy who seemed to hit it for them. But in getting Powell, Powell's kind of the same player as Trent, but Powell is a little taller, more athletic, and is more diverse offensively. Trent, you kind of know he's going to be out on the perimeter. Powell's a guy who can shoot from the perimeter, but can get to the rim and finish at the rim. And I believe Powell's I think Trent's probably a better defender. But like I said, Powell is taller. And with that Portland team, if you can have a finishing lineup with Powell, Lillard, and McCollum out there, that's pretty tough. guys, that's a pretty tough finishing lineup there. 3 guys who can hurt you on the perimeter but can also get to the rim. So, like that move for Portland. Even for Toronto, I think I would have liked it. I would have probably liked it more if they did move out Lowry. Because I feel like Lowry at this point has kind of done all he could for Toronto. And they're not really in a position to win it all this year. So, really no point. I mean, I'm sure they'll probably look to move Lowry in the offseason. At least I'd hope so. But maybe Lowry just wants to finish his career as a Raptor. We'll have to see. I mean, he's making like 30 plus million, which is going to be tough for them to carry that contract and not really be a legit player in the East. I know there's some talk for Lowry because I think the Lakers were looking to get him, and I kind of thought something was going to happen there, but I guess they just couldn't make it happen. There was some talk that the Lakers were willing to give up. It was KCP, I think Horton Tucker, maybe Harrell, because there was kind of some chatter before the deadline that Harrell could have been on the move, which, not gonna lie, I was a little bit surprised by, because I thought the fact that they took Harrell from the Clippers, that they were really looking to use him with Anthony Davis in the front court as well as LeBron, and kind of go with that kind of, position versatility between the 3 of them. But I guess side note on the Lakers, with LeBron hurt and not really knowing how long he's going to be hurt, but I mean, they did diagnose him with a high ankle sprain for an older athlete. Well, I mean, in general, for athletes, high ankle sprains are really tricky because they tend to linger if you don't, I guess, treat it right and all that kind of stuff. But we'll have to see how long LeBron sits out, and when he comes back, does he look any different? AD is still out, although I think it was a couple of days ago there was some shots of him pregame getting some work in, so I guess he's progressing to coming back. But I mean, they really started to take a downturn with those 2 out. Naturally, that was expected to happen, but I mean, the Lakers don't want to fall too far. I will say that. Of course, the most important thing is getting AD and LeBron back healthy, but you still don't want to fall too far in the Western playoffs. So that's something to watch, and probably a reason why the Lakers should have made a move, but they chose not to. Now, if the season doesn't go as expected for the Lakers, you can probably look back to them not doing anything at the deadline as a reason why maybe their season ended earlier. But ultimately, if they are able to repeat, then who's going to care? So, like I said, probably something to mark down if you are a Lakers fan. Maybe they should have been active at the deadline. What other moves? That was earlier. I don't care about those. PJ Tucker went to the Bucks. I kind of question how much PJ Tucker has left in the tank. But on that Bucks team, he'll probably fit in. I mean, their offense is basically guys just standing around on the perimeter while Giannis tries to break down his man, and then if he gets, clogged up in the lane, kicks it out to somebody. And we all know Tucker can hit a corner 3. So that aspect, he should help. Of course, probably he and Brook Lopez will be standing in the corners. Defensively, I mean, he can take some pressure off of Giannis, depending on the matchup, he can guard, I guess, the other team's playmaker, at least for a few minutes. He's getting up there in age, so I mean, it's a good move getting a veteran. I mean, PJ Tucker hasn't really found playoff success with teams that he's been on, so he's kind of in the same boat with other guys in Milwaukee. But for a team like Milwaukee that's at the top of the East, this is one of those moves that could work out for them and push them over the hump. But like the Clippers, they're a team that you just have to wait for the playoffs to see what happens, because they've had quite a few playoff disappointments so far these past couple of years. And with Giannis there, Drew Holiday there now. Now, I will say Drew Holiday, we'll have to see. This is the first playoffs with him in Milwaukee. The past couple of years it's been Eric Bledsoe. And I believe Holiday is an upgrade over Bledsoe. So maybe that spells more success these playoffs, but we'll have to see. Might be one last move that's really, yeah. I mean, George Hill went to Philly. It was a 3-team deal, which I see pretty often in the NBA. But Sixers get George Hill. He brings in a veteran presence that they will most likely need, not necessarily in the regular season, but once they get to the playoffs, because they're another team that needs to prove it in the playoffs. They've had a lot of talent there for a few years now. Playoff-wise, haven't really capitalized on it. I mean, they've had a couple of years where they've exited early because of the Celtics. And, I mean, Embiid is hurt right now. We'll have to see what's going on there, because Embiid's a guy who, in his career so far, has dealt with a lot of lower body injuries. And for a guy 7 feet tall, we've seen it throughout the years. Yao Ming, he have bad feet, didn't have a long career. Shaq, at the end of his career, it was he was done in by an Achilles injury, but at that point he was 36 or something. So, and he was a big body. But the biggest thing that can take down a big man is the lower body. And right now he's dealing with what is it beat out with? Is it a calf injury or something? Something like that. But either way, it's not the best thing to hear with a lower body injury, but maybe he can get a little break in the season. If he gets over it, come back in a few weeks, go on the stretch run, maybe it works out for them. They still have Ben Simmons, even though he's still refusing to shoot. I don't know, because he's done this now for it's like 3 years now. We'll keep hearing about how he's working on it, and he shoots in practice, but then games come, never see it. Well, actually, I can't say that. I think the last couple of years we've seen it like once or twice a year, where he'll take a three and then doesn't do it again outside of that. So at this point, I guess Ben Simmons is what he is. He's just a, 6'9", 6'10" point guard who doesn't shoot. Hey, if they can make it work, more power to them. So they get George Hill, like I said, veteran presence. The Knicks and the Thunder were also involved in this. I mean, the Thunder are dealing with whoever wants to, because they are in the same boat as the Rockets. They're tearing it down to rebuild. I mean, they got Austin Rivers. I believe they waived him already. So, like I said, this was not about bodies for the Thunder. They were just looking to get, draft capital. They got some second-round picks out of it. With all the picks that they have, they could probably package them with some first-round picks and make a splash in the offseason, maybe. We'll see. The Knicks. Yeah, the Knicks are going to get anything. I mean, they got Terrence Ferguson, who's a super athletic guy, at least around the rim. Shooter, streaky. But I guess he kind of fits into the youth movement with the Knicks. And yeah, the biggest part of that trade is George Hill going to the Sixers. Then outside of that, it's just a lot of minor moves like the Heat getting Bjelica from the Kings. It's a little bit more major than minor move because Bjelica is a guy who can shoot from the perimeter. So as you can see, the common thread with their two moves, guys who can shoot from the outside with Oladipo and Bjelica, which helps because Butler's more of your slasher type. Butler will only really take threes in big situations, but he'd rather get to the hoop. So now when he drives, if he gets cut off, he has some guys to throw it out to. And didn't really give up anything in that one. What else? I mean, the Bulls got another big man. They got Daniel Tice from the Celtics. I mean, he'll back up Vucevic. Some lineups could see them on the floor together, maybe. Because Tice can play the four in certain situations against certain teams. And Tice is a guy who, Celtics did trade him away. Kind of tough because Celtics fans, they like Tice. He was a guy who could shoot from the outside, who really worked on it, got pretty good at it. He played around the rim. He would block shots. I think he was blocking like 2 shots a game. I think that was his average this year. He was just a guy that the fans connected with. And, well, he is on an expiring contract, so we'll have to see, can the Bulls work him into their salary structure and keep him there, or is it just a rental for them for the next couple of months, and hopefully he can help them make the playoffs as well. There was another 3-team deal, so the Celtics got Mo Wagner, and Luke Cornett. Those are just back of the rotation guys. And Wizards got Hutchison. So I think when I was talking about Vucevic, I said Hutchison, but he's actually not there anymore. So, but that's kind of all the major moves from the deadline. There's some other moves made. Dallas got JJ Redick and Nicolo Melli from the Pelicans. I mean, 2 guys who can shoot from the outside, which would help. They kind of fit the mold of what the Mavericks have going there, where they have Luka as their do-it-all guy, Porzingis as their slashing to the hoop, 3-point shooting guy. And they have a lot of perimeter guys out there. Tim Hardaway Jr. Now you got Redick, Melli. Is Josh Richardson out there? I think Richardson's out there now. So, yeah. So the Mavs are in that same group as Celtics and Hawks, teams like that, who kind of are middle of the road in the playoff picture, hoping that a move that they made at the deadline can kind of push them up into the next group. But like I said, it's now a basic 2-month sprint to the end of the regular season. And, when the playoffs come, we can revisit which one of these deals worked out for these teams and which ones didn't. But yeah, that's the trade deadline. Like I said, it was definitely more active than I thought it was going to be. There were some good moves made, as I said, and some minor moves as well. But now the look is at the buyout market, where the biggest prize was Andre Drummond, and I believe it's official at this point. He's joining the Lakers. And we all know when it comes to the buyout market, it's usually the top teams that get first crack at these guys. So Lakers got Drummond. The Nets got LaMarcus Aldridge. I'm not sold on the whole LaMarcus Aldridge experience in Brooklyn. I mean, I think Drummond's the bigger get for the Lakers than Aldridge for the Nets, but I understand it. Veteran guy who's been there, done that. So, and with their situations different, with all the attention on Durant, Harden, Irving, Aldridge is a guy who can kind of just stand out mid-range and knock down shots for you. That's all he's going to be asked to do. They got Blake Griffin last week. Who else is out there? DeMarcus Cousins is out there. He's been linked to the Celtics possibly. We'll have to see with that one. Some of these guys from the trades might get bought out. I know Otto Porter might get bought out, although it hasn't happened yet. Kelly Olynyk. So, over the next coming days, we can kind of keep an eye on the buyout market. Any moves happen there, definitely come on here, talk about it with you guys. But I think that's a good spot to end this episode. So, just letting you know, coming up, we'll talk about the whole Baylor UConn women's game in the women's tournament, which, if you didn't see that game, was a great game. Had a controversial ending, so I'll talk about that. We also have the MLB season, baseball season, kicking off on Thursday. So definitely do something on that. Probably give you like a little season preview, give you some predictions on playoff teams, all that kind of stuff. I think there's also some rule changes that they're implementing in the minor league system. Talk about that as well, because I've talked about before that baseball needs to really look at their rules and try to move the game forward. But we all know that baseball, they can be kind of hard-headed with all that. So talk about that. What else do we have? Well, yeah, the men's tournament as well, which, if you go over to Twitter, at Chompin' Podcast, of course, follow the show there. Let me know how your bracket's doing. If you did a women's bracket, let me know. Men's bracket, how's your bracket stand, as we are now into the Final Four, where we have, on the men's side, we have UCLA, who upset Michigan. So we got UCLA, Houston, Baylor, Gonzaga. Yeah, that's the Final Four. Women's side, they're on to the Final Four at this point, which is UConn, South Carolina, I believe Stanford. Whatever, we'll get into that later episodes. And jump back into some NFL stuff, because the draft is now, I think it's less than a month away. So we can start getting into draft mode. I think this draft is going to be an interesting draft in the NFL, but we'll get into that in these coming weeks. So as I always say, definitely a lot going on, and I will be here to bring it all to you. So with that, wherever y'all listen to this, because I am available on pretty much all the major podcasting platforms, you can go ahead, hit the subscribe button or the follow button, whatever the button is, hit it. You can leave a comment as well. based on the stuff I talked about. Give me your insight on, kind of let me know who your team is in the NBA. And if you were happy with what they did or didn't do at the trade deadline, let me know. You can also do that on Twitter at Chompin' Podcast, like I said. For my YouTube people, search my name, Kyle Edwards. You'll see my channel. All the episodes are there as well, audio form. Same for the SoundCloud people. Search my name, Kyle Edwards. It's easier that way to get all the episodes. You can find them there as well. So, but everywhere else, search Chomping Out the Bit and go ahead and subscribe. So, thank you guys for tuning in. I really do hope you enjoyed this episode. And like I say, be safe out there. God bless. And I'll definitely catch you on the next episode. All right.